Welcome to Politics on Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly, all of you that are here early on time. My beautiful, beautiful PDR posse. How is everybody doing? I hope you had a good weekend. We had a lot of news over the weekend. Mostly what again? From Exacto Mundo, SVG, Silicon Valley Bank went under. We're going to talk about that. Anyhow, who's in the house? We have El Señor Michael Rutnin. Welcome to the show, Michael. Bruce Pollard is in the house. Breach MCP is in the house a second time. Bruce a second time. We also have Alistair Waters in the house second time. How you doing, our beautiful Alistair? You have the kiddos with you. I love that. I love some kiddos as well. You know, let me tell you, we used to have this thing in the house where we would say, we are a kid-friendly house. In other words, we don't mean we still have stuff that can break and all that. That's what I'm talking about. But, you know, a lot of folks, when they go over to homes and all of that, don't like to have kids around. We like to have kids around. So, I mean, if in our days, when people be like, they're trying to get away from their kid, hell no. We want the kids. We love the kids. We have fun with the kids. Anyway, Alice Dove, how you doing, beautiful? Hello. Love you too, Alice. Love you too, my dear love. E2247 is in the house. How you doing, E2247? We also have, Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. I love to say just Barcelona, Spain, because we have somebody overseas. As well as Paul Fleming from ATL. Whoop, whoop. How you doing, Paul? Nice to see you here, my brother. Who else we got in the house? I think I called out AVQ already. AVQ said, had some minor renovations done in the mornings the last couple of days. New light fixtures, paint, windows, all sorts of sleepy right now. You've been working your butt off, Michael. Had some, I'm glad to see that everything worked out perfecto mundo for you. Yes, daylight savings only made my sleepiness worse. I was wondering why I was so damn sleepy. You're so right. It's because of daylight saving times. You know, with everything automated, it is like it doesn't happen, but the body, you can't fool the body. You're absolutely right about that, Michael. Also, Michael says, so when will Sunshine Protection Act to eliminate daylight saving times be passed and enacted? Let's call our Congress people and tell them, do it. Let's keep it here permanently. That way we have more sunlight in the afternoons. So what if the kids go to school in the dark? They love it. They're sleeping anyway. So, and my daughter didn't mind the dark at all, and I don't think a lot will. Lee Grant is in the house. How you doing, brother Lee? Lee, you said something today at KPFT. You know, you and I have to go get some coffee. We got some talking to do, brother Grant. We really, really do, sir. We really need to go have a cup of coffee together. Maybe me, you, Bruce, and you, me, Bruce, and who else here is in town? And Alistair and King Masestaki. I don't see Eric in the house right yet. All right, who else we got here? Brit says, Egberto, what I was showing you before? Neighbor was there and friend lives there. Unbelievable. Myrtle Beach resident shot by mass pollen. And I saw the picture that you showed me. And you know what? Let me put the picture on the screen. Here is the deal, Bridge. That's how my car looks. That is how my car looks. Let me see if I can blow it up a bit so people can see a better picture. Let's see if it allows me to blow it up. No, it doesn't allow me to blow it up. In fact, it went berserk when I tried to blow it up. I hope it doesn't hurt the other stuff. Let me close that. No, I'm not going to. I'll wait and see. But anyhow, it turns out, come on, stop it. Let's see if I can close that. Whoa, there's something with that page, young lady. It's kind of spinning and spinning. I hope it doesn't take too much CPU. Anyway, that's a picture that Bridge wants you to see on the screen with all that pollen that's really messing with us all. And by the way, it has a whole lot of ads on it, and I think that's what's taking all the CPU time. That's probably why it just can't finish. Let's see if I can close her down. Hey, I got it closed down. Great. Won't crash my system or won't run the risk of crashing my system. Anyhow, folks, we have a great show for you today. Let's go ahead and get started. I want to first start with what President Biden has to say and then critique some of it. So let's go ahead and listen to our president, and then we'll do a little critique on it. Not critique, but my thoughts on it. But check it out.
Today, thanks to the quick action of my administration over the past few days, Americans can have confidence that the banking system is safe. Your deposits will be there when you need them. Small businesses across the country, the deposit accounts at these banks can breathe easier knowing they'll be able to pay their workers and pay their bills. And their hardworking employees can breathe easier as well. Last week, when we learned of the problems of the banks and the impact they could have on jobs of small businesses and banking system overall, I instructed my team to act quickly to protect these interests. They've done that. On Friday, the government regulator in charge, the FDIC, took control of SiliconValleyBank's assets. And over the weekend, it took control of Signature Bank's assets. Treasury Secretary Yellen and a team of banking regulators have taken action, immediate action. And here are the highlights. First, all customers who had deposits in these banks can rest assured they'll be protected and they'll have access to their money as of today. That includes small businesses across the country that bank there and need to make payroll, pay their bills, and stay open for business. No losses will be, and this is an important point, no losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Let me repeat that. No losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Instead, the money will come from the fees that banks pay into the deposit insurance fund. Because of the actions that our regulators have already taken, every American should feel confident that their deposits will be there if and when they need them. Second, the management of these banks will be fired. If the bank is taken over by FDIC, the people running the bank should not work there anymore. Third, investors in the banks will not be protected. They knowingly took a risk, and when the risk didn't pay off, investors lose their money. That's how capitalism works. And fourth, there are important questions of how these banks got into the circumstance in the first place. We must get the full accounting of what happened and why those responsible can be held accountable. In my administration, no one is above the law. And finally, we must reduce the risk of this happening again. During the Obama-Biden administration, we put in place tough requirements on banks like Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, including the Dodd-Frank law to make sure that the crisis we saw in 2008 would not happen again. Unfortunately, the last administration rolled back some of these requirements. I'm going to ask Congress and the banking regulators to strengthen the rules for banks to make it less likely this kind of bank failure would happen again, and to protect American jobs and small businesses. Look, the bottom line is this. Americans can rest assured that our banking system is safe. Your deposits are safe. Let me also assure you, we will not stop at this. We'll do whatever is needed. On top of all that, let's also take a look at a moment to put the situation in a broader context. We've made strong economic progress in the past 2 years. We've created more than 12 million new jobs, more jobs in 2 years than any president has ever created in a single 4-year term. Unemployment is below 4% for 14 straight months. Take-home pay for workers is going up, especially for lower and middle-income workers. And we've seen record numbers of people apply to start new businesses, more than 10 million of them, more than 10 million applications over the last 2 years starting businesses. Now we need to keep this progress going. That's what swift action that my administration over the past few years is all about. Protecting depositors, protecting the banking system, protecting the economic gains we've made together for the American people.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to... There I am. Okay, absolutely so, folks. Anyway, I had, before I saw that one, I had a quick note to say on the first issue, right? When I heard that, and here's a TikTok, I put it in a thing here, but I want to play the TikTok that I did. I'm trying to increase my TikTok channel because I'm going to start doing lives on TikTok as well. But anyhow, here's what I had to say. Let's see if I can get it started.
Billions in the Silicon Valley Bank.
Oh, let's see. Oh, there.
But you know what? We are going to make them whole. The FDIC is going to pay above and beyond the $250,000 per account to make every account holder holds.
And also these banks will be able to borrow at what the market value was of the bank before it actually crashed. Only good stuff for the wealthy. But student loans, folks who went to school because they told you to go to school. They went to school because you can make a difference with an education. You get nothing. The Supreme Court is going to tell you get nothing. I'm going to play it again. Check out more like this at politicsdoneright.tv or at the links in our bio. All right. The idea that I wanted to come across was that, look, I think President Biden had to do what he did. You know, a lot of progressives are pissed, and I can understand why. Because when it comes to protecting these rich folks, you know, it is always an emergency and we save their money. People will say, well, the investors didn't get to keep their money. But you know what? Every single depositor that has over $250,000 in that bank, a lot of that was investment as well. The bank gave them good interest rates to deposit their money in that bank, and they kept it in that bank. So they were when Biden says it's not a bailout, right? There are a lot of people that have a lot of money in that bank that just had it inside of an account that paid them maybe 4 or 5% interest. They love it, right? It was an investment. If you're going to look, let's be clear. I believe banking should be a national thing. It should be nationalized. It's our money. And I don't see the added value that banks really give other than making a profit off of it. I like community banks, savings and loans, credit unions. I like those types of banking where they help the community for a little interest rate price. I love that. But these banks like SVB and all of that, I am sorry. I am not into that. And I think if they want to play the private game, they can play that. But just don't come and ask us for a bailout. And we shouldn't have our economic system dependent on said structure. Because in effect, what we do have, they don't say this, right? We have a nationalized bank whenever it fails and a for-profit bank whenever they're successful. Think about this. When we had the collapse of investment banking in 2008, we, the people, made them whole. We didn't allow them to crash. We didn't allow that private sector failure that comes every several years. We didn't allow that to crash. So whenever they're crashing, we pick up the slack. We cover them. So it's nationalized banking then. But when they're making monies left and right, it's not nationalized banking, it's private sector banking. But it's not only private sector banking, but they put much of the country at risk. It's amazing. It's amazing. Now, Lee Grant says no one's deposits are safe from Biden inflation. That's not, well, you know, this isn't Biden inflation, first of all. But if you want to say that, if that makes you feel good, by all means do that. Alice Dove says, totally agree with that. They could care less about 99%. They don't care. And what I'm trying to teach my friends, not Alice, you know the truth, Alice. But you know, our brother Lee Grant and Eric Hayes, they somehow think these capitalists, these bankers care about them, and that somehow Biden is doing them wrong. No, they are doing you wrong. These guys are taking you to the cleaners. And until you learn that and stop thinking that someday you could be them or somehow you are on the same level, you know, with these guys, that somehow they care. Until you get away from believing that fallacy, they will continue to take us to the cleaners over and over again and then try to give you propaganda that says it's Biden's fault. I mean, we have to at some point start thinking with our own minds and not being influenced by those externalities. Until then, you guys are a hindrance to progress. You are a hindrance to progress until then. All right, I've got a second video. The second video is the hypocritical. It says something to what I said, and it's Joe. Let's put it this way. It turns out that in Silicon Valley, these guys have a libertarian streak. They want government out of everything until they need government. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
Just as there are no atheists in foxholes,
Right.
there are no libertarians in business when there's a run on banks. And how fascinating that, again, there are people in Silicon Valley who love flexing their libertarian muscles anytime they get a chance to squawk about it. And yet they're the first ones to ask for government handouts, government assistance. And when there's a bank run, they're the first ones to be asking for intervention.
There's no question. Look, David Sachs, very close to Elon Musk, was on Twitter all weekend screaming from the rooftops about bailouts, the need for bailouts. He would say it was for the entire country, which is true, but I think that made it more politically palatable rather than just saying, I just need a bailout over here. We need to do it everywhere. And he was right about that insofar as you do want to stem the tide. But at the same time, there has been a big pushback. And by the way, this issue of carried interest, which we often talk about in the context of hedge funds and private equity getting this special tax treatment. One of the reasons they've gotten that treatment is also because venture capitalists have. And venture capitalists have historically said, look, we're here to help the startup community, and therefore we need this special treatment. I wonder whether that goes away or whether that argument changes in light of the help that, in fact, so many of these people got and, in fact, would have lost, millions, if not billions of dollars.
Exactly. These are just selfish people that will do whatever it takes for them to continue doing well. But as far as you are concerned, and for all of you in our chat, for all of you on our podcasts that are somehow defending these guys that constantly put us through these derangements over and over and over again. 2008, we learned what deregulation could do to banking. And we repeat the same thing over and over because they keep buying these politicians, and we get the neoliberal Democrats and the Republicans to constantly go for them. And then we have those who are helpful because they refuse to think things thoroughly, like our brother Eric and others in our chat on the libertarian or conservative side, that allows these fallacies because they make you believe that someday you will be a part of the clan. Someday you will be a part of the team because you will be invited. The truth of the matter is that's just it. Nobody makes it unless they're invited. And you know what? Bruce is more right than he believes when he says money grows on trees. It's not only that it's made of paper, which grows on trees, of course, which are the trees, but also money can be created and destroyed at will. Money is just an intermediary. And we can print as much money as we need as long as we have a balance in supply and demand. As long as we have a balance in supply and demand, we shouldn't allow money to be the limiting factor, which we do all of the times. Bruce says, I think the $250K per account limit is good. Anyone who has lots of money should distribute it. Makes sense. I agree with you, brother Bruce. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But again, NerdWallet, $250 if your federally insured bank fails. Federal Deposit Insurance Company insurance keeps your money safe. The FDIC insures up to 250 depositors. Yes, sir, it does. Paul Fleming says, we need the F students listening to make a point. Oh, my God. All right, let's see. Eric Hayes says from Bank Executive, as a community bank executive reading the news surrounding the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, I am appalled. Top execs sold millions of dollars of shares in the weeks prior to the collapse. They went without a chief risk officer for 8 months, true. During one of the fastest rate rising environments on records, their chief administrative office was the CFO Lehman Brothers before its collapse in 2008. Their business was concentrated heavily on startups financed by venture capitalists, which is extremely risky in itself. What's even crazier, their proposal invested billions of dollars of deposits into long-term fixed rate investments when rates were near zero, leading to a massive mismatch on their balance sheet. This mismatch created a serious risk in a rising rate environment, resulting in a large unrealized losses jeopardize their capital should those losses have to be realized. Exactly. Fast forward 12 months and interest rates are now greatly increased. Those long-term fixed rate bonds have dropped in value. How does $200 billion bank recently rated as one of the top banks in the country by Forbes explain this horrible lack of risk management? How can anyone say this bank wasn't operating in a manner that created catastrophic risk? It was operated like every bank of its size because they paid Congress to pass a law that said they didn't need to go through stress tests, Eric. That's the issue. Your private sector failed you because you don't like regulations. They don't like regulations, and this is what you get when you don't have regulations. This is what you get when you don't have regulations. All right, let's see what else we got here, because we got one from David Cobb coming up. Money is fake. If anyone can explain fractional reserve banking to me in one sentence, I'd be stunned if the explanation wasn't they conjure it out of thin air. That's where money comes from, out of thin air. It's on a balance sheet. That's it. So when people talk about printing money and we can't afford it, it's not true at all. We just need money as a conduit. If money has products to find, you don't get inflation. If it has products to find and we prevent the gouging of the plutocracy, there's not a problem. It's a fact. Anyhow, folks, let's go ahead and go to David Cobb. I think you guys are going to like this one. It explains much. This is my brother in crime of many projects that we've done together in the activist world. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Today we have a very, very special guest. David Cobb is a people's lawyer who has sued corporate polluters, lobbied elected officials, run for political office himself, and been arrested for nonviolent civil disobedience. He believes we can and must provoke and win a peaceful revolution if we are to survive. I can't agree more. David serves as an advancement manager for the Wiyot Tribes Dishgama Community Land Trust. I got through it. And as co-coordinator of the U.S. Solidarity Economy Network. He also serves on the steering committee of the Green Eco-Socialist Network as an advisor to the California Progressive Alliance and is a leader of the California Public Banking Alliance. David Cobb, we meet again and welcome to Politics Done Right. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm very good. Hello, Egberto. It is such a pleasure to see you again and reconnect with you, because the one part of the bio that you didn't mention is that you and I helped to co-found Move to Amend, the nationwide campaign to amend the U.S. Constitution to abolish in its entirety the illegitimate and court-created idea that corporations are persons with constitutional rights.
But you know what? We didn't quite get the 28th Amendment out, but we sure got awareness out there. And it's still, people are still working on it. And you know what? We started it, brother.
62 Congress people have endorsed that House Joint Resolution 48. I'm very proud of the work that you and I and others did, Egberto.
Absolutely so. But anyway, it's great. Let me tell you, it's great having you here. First of all, before I go into the Decolonizing Economics Summit, tell me what you've been doing. Tell me what we need to know, because David Cobb always has something to say.
Well, Egberto, thank you for that invitation. And I am going to take a step back for your viewers and listeners to really anchor how I am seeing this moment. Because you see, we are in a historic conjuncture, right? It's important to understand, Egberto, that 99 times out of 100, if you really want to know what is likely to happen today, just study yesterday.
Right.
And if you want to know what's going to happen tomorrow, study today, because that's how history moves in patterns. However, 1 in 100, right? Like those conjuncture moments are where there are tipping points, when there are opportunities for great change. Mm-hmm. I believe that we are in the beginning stages of a profound conjuncture. And it's not clear exactly which way it's going to go, but I want to say what I see happening. And that is, we are in an ecological crisis. It's not coming. It's here and getting worse. And we are in an economic crisis. It's not just late stage capitalism. We're literally living in end stage capitalism, because not only are the transnational corporations and the way the political economy operates consuming and destroying Mother Earth faster than she can replenish herself. That's existential in and of itself. In addition, and deeper still, Egberto, with automation, technology, robotics, the entire political economy is being restructured. Whether you like it or I like it or Donald Trump likes it, it's being restructured at the same level of the 1930s when the entire economy of the entire global north transitioned from an agrarian society to an industrial one. Mm-hmm. We are in another level of transformation like this. So it's an ecological crisis, it's an economic crisis, and it's also a political crisis. And the political crisis is because the current system cannot handle and accommodate everything that's happening and can't do what it's designed to do. And what I mean by that is this political system was never designed to solve white supremacy or racism. It was never designed to solve settler colonialism. It was never designed to solve economic injustice. In fact, it was designed to protect those things. What I'm saying is this, Egberto, to you, to your listeners, to your viewers, be clear. Fascism is emerging now because the political system can't do what it's designed to do, which is merely maintain order. So an ecological crisis, an economic crisis, a political crisis, all convening at the same time. We're in the early stages of systems collapse. And I genuinely believe in the next 10, 15 years, it will become clear whether the dominant paradigm is going to be some version of eco-socialism and an indigenous worldview or some version of fascism. I wish that there was that I didn't
in between,
see
yeah.
Clarity. I just don't see it, right? Like it's like slavery, Egberto. There are some things that just can't be accommodated in the same space. And that's why fascism is rising. And I'll end with this. I'll have these kind of conversations with you and I'll use certain words. But you've seen me, Egberto, in pool halls and bowling alleys. I can have this same conversation with a high school graduate or even dropout who's a construction worker who looks like me. I'll use a little bit different words, but I can communicate the same idea about how the boss man's got his boot on our neck. I believe, just like I know you believe, because I've seen you do it, take people who have a knee-jerk reaction and by listening to them and talking to them, find the common ground to bring them into our way of seeing the world.
That is why you will always have a platform, not only on Politics Done Right, but on many other platforms, because whereas many would make what you stand for somehow that person outside of the norm, the reality is you are the norm. We are the norm. We are where people are right now. It's just that it's not clicking. Just like you said, the system is not able to take all these ideas together. It's the same thing. They're not able to put what we are. They just can't believe the things that you are saying is where we really ought to be. And when that comes to pass, then we'll see the change. So my expectation, one of the reasons that I am doing this, and I'm sure it's why you are doing what you're doing as well, David, is that we don't believe in hope. We believe in making what's going to happen. What needs to happen.
That's exactly right. Look, hope or optimism that is just in your head is vacuous and sugar-coated nonsense,
Nothing.
Right? It means nothing. But I'll tell you this. Look, it's like this. Theory without action is just contemplation.
Right.
But action without theory is just doing shit.
Right.
Right. Like what I love talking to you and people like you is let's have an understanding of the ecosystem, what's actually happening, so that then we can make a plan and do our best to implement it. Understanding that we're going to have to make corrections along the way, right? There's a great line in strategic planning that goes like this. Strategic planning is everything. The plan means nothing. Right? Because
absolutely so.
You have to be thinking about, like, strategic planning is, okay, when this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. But as soon as you put it into practice, reality sets in and things begin to change. But if you have trained yourself to be a strategic thinker, you can accommodate that. That's the difference between a theory, practice, and praxis, and a willingness to adjust your theory based on what your real world practice is showing you, and being willing to adjust your practice based on, oh, I had some assumptions, but then when I tried some things, I learned some things.
That's why I always enjoyed going to your symposiums as well, where you became a speaker, because you have a way of giving things context. I love that. You give things the important context that they need. Now, David, tell me a little bit about Decolonizing Economic Summit.
Yes, thank you for asking, Roberto, and I hope that you and your listeners will come. It is happening April 20 through 22. April 22, of course, is Earth Day this year, but it's online and it's completely free. Just go to decolonizingeconomics.org or decolonizingeconomics.org, and you can find out more about it. We would love to have, and I beg your pardon, Decolonizing Economics Summit.
Oh, I'm going to have the link. Don't worry about it. It's going to be in the blog. Yeah.
Perfect. So decolonizingeconomicsummit.org. But what's really important is this is the fourth annual. The first year we did it, Egberto, I brought in Emily Kawano, the co-coordinator of the U.S. Solidarity Economy Network, Kali Akuno of Cooperation Jackson, and Jerome Scott, our colleague
Jerome Scott from Atlanta. Absolutely.
All right. And then we're joined by Native American Studies Department Director, Dr. Kutcha Rising Baldy. I'm going to be clear. Kali and Emily and Jerome were brilliant, but they also said what I knew they would say, because I know them very well, right? And it was all about capitalism is destroying the planet, and we need a new economic system to build worker-owned cooperatives and public banks and participatory budgeting and universal basic income and locally controlled energy production and distribution models. And that's all happening, and we can do it, and laid it out, right? Dr. Baldy, though, blew my mind because she said, this is all great, but I'm challenging you to think deeper about the culture that is associated with these policies, that it is not enough to just have good concrete policies and good concrete politics, but the worldview that is associated with industrialism and modernity is at odds with the indigenous worldview. And so literally, Alberto, what began as solidarity economy, building a post-capitalist economy, that was year one. Years 2, 3, and 4 are now decolonizing economics, building a post-capitalism economy, because it pushed me to think deeper. And I'll tell you this, my friend, I live in Humboldt County, California. So I am a guest on Wiyot ancestral territory. And my mama taught me how to be a good guest to people. And so if anybody ever invites me to their home, and because you've invited me to home for a meal, and if you'll remember, I offered to wash the dishes or help wash the dishes. You and your lovely wife put me and Ruthie up for the night. And if we remember, the next day I said, Egberto, do I make the bed or do I strip the sheets? Right?
I remember very well. Not necessary, but I remember.
Yes, but that's the point. My mama taught me, if you're going to be a guest, be a good guest so you get invited back. And as you know, I'm a mama's boy. I love my mama. I'm so much of who I am because of her and my mama and papa, Southern for grandparents. But Egberto, my mama did not teach me how to be a good guest to and on land. Because she was not taught, because it wasn't part of the worldview. What I now realize is my ancestors were once in right relationship with land as stewards of the land in Scotland and Ireland. So my ancestors were traumatized by the English Empire and the enclosure movement, driven off our ancestral lands. We came to this continent, Turtle Island, and traumatized people and drove them off the land, right? I'm literally the descendant of traumatized and traumatizer. So there's plenty of trauma to go around, but I'm not interested in the shame and blame game. What I'm saying is, let's learn how to heal the land of the generational trauma. And by healing the land together, we heal each other and ourselves. And it's a worldview that returns us to a perspective of being in right relationship with land and with our cousins, the beavers and the salmon and the redwood trees, right? Forests are alive. They're ecosystems that are alive. Rivers are alive. We're supposed to be caretaking and part of that. We have a role to play, not power over, but power with, not only with each other, but with land and all life. It's a worldview, my friend. And so for listeners and viewers and readers, if this is resonating with you, come to 3 full days where we explore with experts who are actually doing it, decolonizing restoration, decolonizing the law, decolonizing the media, asking ourselves, how do we make land back real? How do we build a movement to combine public banking and participatory budgeting and worker-owned cooperatives all together to democratize the economy? How do we confront racialized capitalism that has separated us? And how can we actually bring people into this movement who may not agree with everything that we're saying, but understand that it's actually a circumstance where the ruling elite are laughing all the way to the bank when they're able to get us arguing amongst ourselves about some of these things. Not that these aren't important, right? But at the end of the day, there's nothing that makes the ruling elite happier than to see so-called left and so-called conservatives battling each other when we have no power.
I love that like you would not imagine. I have people in my chat, even as yesterday said, Egberto, I had this one really got to me because I always end our chats with "Love you all, thank you all," and he said, what a very conservative, and he tries to be obnoxious in the chat, but he is at every single program 5 days a week, sometime twice on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays when we do on air. And he says, he once said, Egberto, what do I need to do for you to hate me? What do I need to do for you to stop loving me? I looked at him and I said the following. Let me tell you, if I allowed that to happen, the plutocracy wins, because that is their goal. Their goal is for me to let you get me so pissed off, for me to create that we can't get together and make that change that you talk about. That change of decolonizing everything depends on us forming coalitions that last, permanent coalitions. And that's what it's all about, David. I love the way you actually articulated that, because that is what's important. Your left brother, your right brother, all of these guys have got to stay working together. Like you said, you can go talk to the guy who, and you did that. I'm going to do it now. I can talk to this, or I can talk to that.
So, Egberto, there's a great quote from a fantastic American who does not get enough play. Booker T. Washington famously said, "I shall allow no man to belittle my soul by making me hate him."
There you go. I love that. I didn't know that quote, but I love that quote. Didn't know that quote. So anyway, let me ask you something, David. How do we get there?
Well, that is a great question, Egberto. And what I say is vision, goals, strategies, tactics, right? The how do we and I want to say with clarity, the vision is what is the world that we want to live in? The goals are, what are the achievable concrete benchmarks that put us in a position to be able to achieve one or more of our goals? The strategy is the plan to achieve the goals. The tactics are the things that we do that are in service of our plan to achieve our goals, to put us in a position of our vision. So many times when humans say, especially Americans, oh, we're going to have a conversation about strategy, really all they mean is, let's just talk about tactics and timelines. What I'm saying is I do have a vision, I have goals, I have strategies, but the how we get there is you have to have concrete plans that are A, B, C, and D that are very clear that you take those steps. And then you have an idea that, well, I think FGHI is going to look something like this. JKLM is a little bit further. So this idea of being willing to take the steps that are very clear in front of you, as our friend Jerome Scott says, make it happen, right? That's literally what he has on his email signature. Make it happen. So I'll tell you this. I know that I can have conversations with people who are principled, who don't share my ideology, my principles, my values. I can have those conversations, but I can't really make plans with them because they have like different goals that they're trying to achieve. Doesn't make them my enemy. Like some of them are my enemy, just to be very clear, right? There are fascists out there. Mm-hmm. They are I make no mistake about like who they are. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you this, the way we get there is by putting into practice our values with policies that make sense and we make people's lives better. There's a great philosophy called non-reformist reforms. Those are reforms, yes, that make people's lives better, but they're not merely reforms. They're designed to build participatory processes. They're designed to undermine the logic of white supremacy and heteropatriarchy and settler colonialism and capitalism. And the way I think that we do it is that we show, not tell, but show people, hey, if you join a worker-owned cooperative, you'll make more money, you'll have more control over your own time, your own mind, your own value, you'll empower yourself. You're going to be happier following us.
It's amazing because a lot of that has some cliches that we mentioned, that we had before. Lead by example, or simply you not only lead by example, but actually show what's actually occurring is better for you. And I tell you what, the bees will gravitate to the honey, or whatever would gravitate to the honey. They start to see good things happening. That's where they'll go. So, I mean, I love the concept. Now, do you have a blog post or a writing anything on the strategy, tactics, and that sort of stuff that you spoke about?
I do. And one of the things that I want to make sure to lift up, because I know we're coming to the end of our time together, Egberto, the other thing, and I know that you, as somebody who understands electoral politics, is important, but you're also not an electoral fetishist, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Understand, like so many people, Egberto, think, oh, I want social change. So they either say electoral politics is the only thing that matters because that's where you elect people and that's where the decisions get made. And movement stuff, whatever, that's whatever. But elections are where it's at. Or the other group will say, if elections could change anything, they'd make it illegal. You're a chump to deal with elections. Social movements is the only thing that's ever changed anything. Egberto, they're both right, which means that they're both wrong. This either or approach to elections or movements is a false dichotomy. We need social movements that also engage in electoral politics. And my friend, listen to what I'm doing in Humboldt County. It's called the North Coast People's Alliance. I'll drop the URL into the chat for you, so you can make sure it's in the blog and on the video. What is it, you ask? Why, it brings together progressive Democrats and Greens and socialists and declined to state to say, we're not going to fuss with you about whatever party affiliation or party label you have. What we're saying is, from the bottom up, a commitment to racial justice, environmental justice, economic justice, and a commitment that if you want to, as an elected official or a candidate for office, if you want our support, you have to not only check these policy statements, you've also got to make this pledge. I will not seek, nor will I accept corporate contributions. So what I'm saying is, when we have that level of agreement from the bottom up in a popular way, I don't care if you're registered Democrat, registered Green, registered Socialist Party, or registered Declined Estate. I can roll with you. The North Coast People's Alliance is a way to build a truly transpartisan progressive unity.
I love that. Well, we're coming close to the end of time, David, and take as much time as you want to give us a closure to, enrich us. And by the way, I want to get that blog on the strategy, tactics, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. And what I'll say is this, my friend. There is a chapter in a new book coming out that Kali Akuno authored and co-edited, and I wrote a chapter for it. I'll give you a link to that entire book, and you can use as much of it or as little of it as you like. But here's my final thoughts. We are in a historic conjuncture. If you ever wondered what you would do during 1930s Germany, or if you wondered what you would do during the American suffragette movement, if you ever wondered what you would do during the American Civil War or the American Revolution, ask yourself what you're doing now. Because every one of those that I just described were historic moments that are at the same level of the historic moment that we're in. We can't just talk about it. We've got to be about it. So we engage in electoral politics without becoming an electoral fetishist. We engage in social movements that build alternative institutions that actually meet people's needs, that show them that we can not just survive, but thrive, live rich and meaningful lives through worker-owned cooperatives, public banking, participatory budgeting, universal basic income, locally controlled energy production and distribution models. All of these things actually exist right now. What we need to do is start to create liberated zones that say we're doing this all in one place to democratize a local area to show people this is what real freedom feels like, tastes like, looks like. That's what we have to do.
David Cobb, the people's lawyer, and much more than what I need to say. Check it out from the beginning. Thank you so kindly for having been part of Politics Done Right.
Thank you, Alberto.
That's my brother from another mother. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think it was an important, uplifting chat. I think for a lot of folks who they will try to find everything. David, we had chop zones in 2020. Look where that got us. Don't know what you're talking about, but why would I know what you're talking about? Bruce says, decolonizingeconomicsummit.org looks interesting. We should piggyback some. I'll see how we can work that if at all possible. But, you have the link to sign up to actually be a part of it. Sign up for it and go check it out, and who knows? Maybe if there are some conflicts or times, I may actually do it. Let's go ahead and put something on the screen for our beautiful Bridge MCP because it makes a whole lot of sense. And this is for my three brothers in here that I love dearly. Eric Hayes, Lee Grant, and Daniel Ledo. I don't see any other conservative in here today, but here it is. It's all that you need to read, courtesy of the wonderful Bridge MCP. We have a financial ignorance problem in Washington. That's not true, Eric. You see, you missed the point. Washington, they understand financial concepts very well. It's just that you don't fit in. Remember that. They understand it well. The plutocrats understand it well. They understand that for them to be the omnipotent wealthy folk, you got to pay the price. It's on you. And if you don't listen to guys like Brother David Cobb and myself and others that really gets it, that really gets it, okay? If you don't, I'll read it. And this is for the people on the podcast. The forest was shrinking, but the trees kept voting for the axe. For the axe was clever and convinced the trees that because his handle was made of wood, he was one of them. That has so many different meanings, what Bridge MCP brought to us. Turkish proverb. Let me tell you what part of it is. You notice Brother David Cobb brings up white supremacy often in his talk because he understands what it means. The vast majority of white people in America are the forest. This is a proverb. This is a corollary to the Proverbs. Are the forest. The axe with the wooden handle is the plutocracy, comprised mostly of also white people, but also include, let's say, the Oprah Winfreys and the Jay-Z's and these other billionaires that are invited into the club. They are all chopping you down. They are all taking everything that you're worth. But because you are made of wood, because you look like them, they think that's enough for you to be on their side as they cut you down. And that is what my brother David Cobb and I have been around the country at the Democracy Convention in Madison, Wisconsin, in Washington, D.C., in Portland, Oregon, in Eugene, Oregon, in this resort in Florida. We've had all these different areas where we try to talk about this. So understand that that proverb is much more intense than just its words. It's about tribes. It's about deception within and without tribes. And it is something that teaches me what I want to preach. One tribe. You are all my tribe. I am all your tribe. Okay? That's what it's all about. And you know what? It hurt. Let me tell you now, Egberto, yes, exactly what it means. And see what Lee and Daniel says. No. Lee, it hurts Lee and brother Daniel and Eric because it's true. And they know it deep inside, deep in their hearts. They know it's true. They know it's true. They know they're being used, but think about it. It still gives them that shred that just maybe, because of how I look, just maybe, I get that cut of above treatment. I get that cut of above financial advantage. I get that, but again, the system must keep eating and eating and eating, and it eventually eats you all, as it has already eaten many. I mean, Bridge, I have not seen that proverb before, but it spoke to me as soon as I read it. And the reason I hadn't read it out loud before, I was just digesting it. Egberto, they don't just you didn't know you were a homophobe. Exactly. Exactly, Bridge. And what happens is when the light goes off, right, you have to choose. Now, there are a lot of people that choose to live in willful ignorance, right? There are a lot of people that choose that because it is easier around their friends. It's easier to tell their friends, I've seen the light. When I stopped being a homophobe, again, I'm from Panama, I'm black, and I'm Caribbean, I'm Latino. 3 diseases that gives you that homophobic culture. Do you think it was easy when I had to confront the churns that I get when somebody was saying that F, why are you messing with that F guy? And I had to say, you don't speak like that because they are just as good as we are. There's no difference between those two. You know how difficult it was for me to break that culture when I saw the light? And I have to say, you won't do that here. You know how tough it was being around a whole lot of men and saying, you won't treat women like that. You won't do that. You know how when Chris Rock went and gave his still and I come out and the first thing I said, I love Chris Rock's piece, but he was harder on Pinkett Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, compared to how he dealt with Will Smith. It takes growing up. It takes being an adult. It takes growing. And after you've grown, then you can talk. Now, when others don't, I just, continue treating them as you should, right? They're children. And what you don't hate on children, you assist children to learn. You don't hate on the sick, you assist the sick. You don't hate at the psychologically impaired. You assist the psychologically impaired. You understand that love is more powerful. And in the long run, maybe not in your time, but in some time it succeeds. And that's what we have to understand. Okay, that's what we have to understand. Anyway, folks, please, I ask you so kindly to support our program, Politics Done Right. There are several ways that you can support us. Please go to politicsdoneright.com. Oops, let me get there. Let me bring this baby over. Please go to politicsdoneright.com. Where are you? All right, let's get the politicsdoneright.com/support is the link where you can find all methods of supporting us. Okay? Let's see. Egberto has a pathological need to broadcast his virtue on how he changed from a homophobe to the wise. Yes, I do. And you know what, wise, proud black man he is today. It's gotten so bad to be compulsively doesn't at least want to get help. No. I purposefully talk about how I used to be. Purposefully. And the reason why it's to do one thing, and I'm going to answer you, Daniel, even though you're trolling me, Daniel, I want to answer this for everybody to hear. I constantly talk about having been a homophobe and having been a sexist. I do it on purpose because I want folks to know that as proud a person as I've always been, when I've failed, I've atoned. And it's something that you can fail, you can atone, and you can go on. You can fail, you can atone, and you can go on. I repeat, you can fail, you can atone, and you can go on. And that's what it's all about. Bridge MCP Egberto Willis from Carl Cox. GOP hates anything that is anchored in the concept of common good. By the common good, I mean where everything has food, clothing, medical care. You're right about that. I don't think it's a mental. Well, I know it's not a mental disorder, but I do worry about you, my good friend Daniel Lado. Anyway, please support us at politicsandright.com. That's support. And please, alternatively, we want to do a quick chain at PayPal. You can go to politicsandright.com/PayPal. Or you can go to politicsdoneright.com/patron. We do need a whole lot of patrons. But again, the catch-all is found on politicsdoneright.com/support. We could really use your support to keep this program going. As you can see, we bring good guests in. We do good work. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.